Hey, what's going on? It's Jason Lucchese with No Flipping Excuses, finding, financing, and flipping houses using simple strategies. So now that you've gone through, you've seen how to make the calls, what to say with the script that I've gone over with you. We've looked at properties now. We've done a lot. We've done a lot of stuff. So what I want to do is give you this video so you know exactly how to craft and create your offers, because that's one of the biggest keys that a lot of people do not get right, and that is evaluating a property and properly putting together a purchase price that makes sense for everybody involved. Not just you, but for the seller that you're buying the property from. And then if you do end up selling it same day, you want to be able to give your end buyer a great price too. So it makes sense to have a really strong maximum allowable offer in there so that you are getting the properties at the right price. So let's hop into number one here, and that's putting together your maximum allowable offer. And that's what we like to just have it as MAO as the acronym to use there. Now, for example, what I'm going to be going over on this particular deal is 123 Main Street. Obviously, it's not real. And then we've got ask price 150. So the owner of record is asking for $150,000 on this particular property. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to minus off title expenses to arrive at our MAO. We are going to minus off profits we want to make. Now, you have to think about your end investor here. Your end investor wants to buy this property with meat on the bone. And when I say meat on the bone, sorry for some of you vegetarians or vegans out there, but what it really boils down to is your end investor being able to make a really good profit. Because you don't want to just give them a one-off deal. You want to be able to have that end buyer come back to you for more and more and more deals, because that's what it's really all about. We don't want to just have, hundreds and hundreds of buyers, but they're all one-off people that buy from us. And what I mean by one-off is they just buy the one deal. They see what types of deals that you present to them, and they never come back and want to buy more because the deal probably didn't really make sense for them after they got in and started looking at the property. So the best thing to do is make sure that you account for your profits, because the last thing you want to do is put your profit onto the purchase price and then get your profit from that way. The way I do it is a little bit different, and we get our offers approved. Now, not every single offer is going to get approved, but with you having the proper calculations in there, it will work. And it's not rocket science. For somebody that barely got through geometry in high school, I was, pre-algebra, algebra, and then geometry. I didn't really do all the math that you were supposed to do in high school, but I can tell you this: after being in the financial sector for the mortgage business for a while, I started to come accustomed to how to put together some numbers, and you will too, because this is going to be super easy how I explain it to you. Again, super simplistic strategies. Don't overcomplicate this. Go through this as many times as you want. I'm going to leave this up for you so that you could watch it over and over again to make sure that you're getting this. We're going to minus off taxes. So what typically happens is you have to pay for taxes in arrears. So the seller will take care of the taxes on their end, and then when you sell to your end buyer, you're going to have to pay for prorated taxes as well. So you have to keep that in mind. So you have to know what the taxes are, and typically counties across the country do a couple payments per year. So they do a biannual payment. Typically they're in spring and fall for taxes on your particular property. That's how it is, at least I know a lot in the Midwest, is it's typically spring and fall. And then we have minus off holding expenses. So if you're using like a private money lender or a transactional funder, this is where you would put in that type of money. So if a private money lender is, say for instance, you do buy the house at $150,000, you get a loan, and at the end of the loan, say you keep the property for 30 days, you end up paying them $5,000. So the payoff then would be $155,000. So I'm just coming off the top of my head with that. Is that going to be like real terms that you could get from a private money lender? I'm not 100% sure. I'm just giving you like an example so you know what I'm talking about when it comes to holding expenses. When it comes to comps, I would always recommend use 3 comps. You're going to see we're going to use some comps right here to go over for it from an example purpose. Now, don't go any further out than 6 months. Now, I put exceptions can happen. Exceptions can happen if you're in an area to where it's very rural, or you're just not finding much success. You're maybe in a less like you're not in like even like a median ranged metropolitan area. Maybe you just need to find some areas that are a little bit higher. So you may need to go about 12 to 18 months back to get proper comps. And that is completely fine for you to do. Just make sure that the comps are solid. Okay, you need to, this is key right here. Use similar looking properties. So if I have a ranch, I'm not going to go and look at a triplex and compare the two. I'm not going to take a 2-story home and compare it to maybe a 2-story with a basement because the other house doesn't have a basement. I might be able to hold that comp into play, but minus off what it would cost for that basement. Okay, so it just you need it when you're doing this. It really boils down to comparing apples to apples. You don't compare an apple to an orange. So same thing applies. You don't want to compare a modular home to a single family residence. They're definitely way off on price. And then we don't go further out than a mile. Exceptions can happen. Again, exceptions are going to be for rural properties. I personally like to stay within a 1/4 mile radius of the property, and this is going to be huge. You need to account for certain cross areas. Okay, so like in Indianapolis here, once you go below like 30th Street, like the homes start taking like a major nosedive in values, and it becomes a much more high crime area. So I wouldn't want to, if a property is like a couple blocks north of that, I wouldn't want to include anything below that because it's definitely going to affect the value in a very dramatic way. So make sure like the streets so that you definitely keep it within a good area. So if you're in a good block, you don't want to go outside the block. You may go outside the block depending on if you need those comps or not. So some areas might just be they don't have anything sold in a long time. Maybe people aren't selling, so you may need to go a little bit further out. But again, make sure you're looking at a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. Make sure you're looking at 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses. Now there are some exceptions to where if it's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, then yeah, I would probably add that in as a comp, because then you could account for that half bathroom and you can minus off. Typically half baths here in the Midwest, they're probably going to range between $5,000 to $7,500 that we would deduct off of the value. Okay, so let's take a look at these comps here. I put together 3, and they all are on Main Street, of course. So for the example, this property, comp 1 sold for $250, sold for $255 on comp 2, comp 3 $253, $500, and then the median range value. This is key. You add up all of them and then divide by 3, and then this is what you get: $252, $833. Now here's the deal. A lot of people have several different ways on how you can come up with values of your properties and all that kind of stuff for determining maximum allowable offer. This is what I will tell you. If you're in a very competitive market, you're not probably going to be able to do 65%. You just probably won't be able to get the property down to where you need to at 65%. And then you lose out on a potential really good deal of you making 10, 15,000 bucks. Most people are going to be right around this 70% range. Now, I'm not saying you can't start at 65% and then get yourself up to 70%. I'm not saying that's not what you can do. I'm just saying a lot of people are going to eventually be around the 70% range. Can you go up to 75%? Absolutely. Do your numbers. Make sure it works. If it works, then you're good to go. 80%. Can you go up to 80% as long as it makes sense? I get that asked all the time because some people are in like super competitive markets like San Diego, Las Vegas, Phoenix, certain parts of Florida like Tampa or Miami, New York. You're going to have that. You could go up to 80%, especially on these higher priced homes in these other areas, even if they're not super high priced. You definitely want to make sure that you're checking your numbers here. Okay, so let's go over that right now. So here is after repair value. Okay, so we're at 176,983, 70%. Okay, this is right here. Now this is coming from the 252. All I did was 252,833 times 70%, and this is where I arrive at 176,983. Now what I'm going to do is get my title expenses included in here, which are about $1,500. Now it's going to range all across the board. I just put a general number. The things to look out for is title insurance, title closing costs, recording fees. Just make sure you look over closing statements. Ask the title company that you're going to be doing business with. Just ask them for previous closing statements that they've had, and they could black out, addresses and all that kind of stuff if that's something that they need to do. Just say that you're purchasing. Give them a range of where you're purchasing your properties from. Like for us, it's like 80,000 to 200,000. Sometimes we might go a little bit lower, so we know that title expenses will be a little bit lower, but different fees associated at different prices. So you just need to make sure, because title insurance will go up, it will fluctuate depending on where you're at. So if you're at 80,000 and say we're at 150, it's gonna vary in price. So minus off profits. We want to minus off profits for our particular deal. So if we want to make 10,000, 15,000, we put that in to this particular equation so that we make the type of money that we want to make. Now, are you going to make 15 grand on every single deal? I'm not sure. I don't have a crystal ball, but as long as you do these the right way and you're putting out enough offers, which as you guys have already picked up by now, it's 15 offers each and every week, bare bones minimum. Okay, and you will get these approved. So minus off taxes. So we minus off the taxes. So for this particular property, we have to pay for fall. We have to pay for fall property taxes, which are going to be $1,250. We have to pay for arrears. If we're closing in spring, we're going to have to pay for fall taxes. Again, everything's all in arrears. So the fall taxes are essentially paying for spring, because if I'm occupying during that period of time, I have to pay for fall, okay? Because the spring taxes were for last fall, okay? Everything's in arrears. So this is going to be an example to where no holding expenses are being accounted for. This is where you would want to put your holding expenses if you do have any. Most of the transactions we're doing are A to B, B to C transactions, meaning we're closing same day, so we don't have to use anybody else's funds. Okay, you could just use the end buyer's funds by using an escrow agreement. Then we have repair costs that we put in the property. So repair costs could come from several different factors. You could have a real estate agent go out there that knows what they're doing, they're investor friendly, and they could give general repair estimates. You could have a general contractor go out there, make sure the general contractor is licensed, insured, and bonded. Have them go out there and give them $50, $100 and put together just like a really simple form of what they think it's going to cost to get the property back up. And it's good to just get this number in there so that you already know what it's going to take so you could sell it to your end investor. Okay? And then what we do is we take all of these, we minus them off, and we come up with our maximum allowable offer, which is 141,733. So again, if we scroll up here to the top, the ask price from the owner was 150. Okay, so the chances of getting them down to this number is pretty likely. Now again, this is our maximum allowable offer. Here's where I'd start. Here's where I would start. My starting price would be, let's just say, 137. Now, how did I come up with that number? I'm trying to come as close as I can to this, but I don't want to be right at it, because what I want to do is I'll say, hey, I'll give you 137.5, and then I'm expecting them to counter, and then I'll counter back, and then eventually what I want to do is get to this price. I would ideally like to get to 141. Like, say for instance, they're at 150 and they receive my offer. Okay, so 150 is right here, the seller's asking for, and then we come down here to 137. I give them that offer. Maybe they come back at 145, or maybe they're really stubborn. They want to be at 147 or 148. Okay, we go back and forth a little bit. I come up to 139. They come down to 145. And then eventually I get my price at 141. And sometimes that's what it takes. You do have to negotiate back and forth in order to get everything that you need done. So that is what I do for coming up with a maximum allowable offer. You need to make sure that you account for all of this right here. Okay, and what I'll do, just to place a little bit of emphasis on this, I'll put it in yellow highlighter, boom, and we'll bold it. So this is really important right here, is to do all of this. So if you need to rinse, repeat, watch this video a couple different times, by all means, do it. And what I want to do is I want to give you an invitation to join me on my next master class here that we're going to be having. You could click the link below. Join me. I'm going to be going over some key strategies that you could be using for finding off-market, deeply discounted properties. So you could join me on that. Again, it's a free master class. Would love to have you on there. If you're unable to, that's fine. That's cool too. But again, we're going to be having some of those coming up here very soon, and I would love to get you on there to show you some additional strategies that you could be using within your business and getting some deals that you could use for using the maximum allowable offer, and you making, $15,000, $20,000 per deal. So let's make that happen. If you'd like to join me, click the button below for joining the free master class. And any of the videos that we've gone up to this point, the links are also below. So if you need to go over anything that we've gone over, like making the calls, reviewing the script, going to the properties and looking at them, by all means, click any of the links below, and you'll be able to watch those videos that we've done for you up to this point. But that's it for this one, maximum allowable offer. I will see you on our next one. I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.